Okay. Okay, there we go. All right.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name's Rebecca Fleming, and we're going to be just talking about reading food labels and breaking it down so we can make it a lot easier for you guys when you are all in the grocery store. This is a little bit of what we'll be talking about today. So we're going to be reviewing serving sizes, calories, nutrients, the percent daily value, and we're going to go over ingredients. This is a standard food label. So at the top, you're going to see the serving information. You will see how many servings there are in a container or a package. You'll also see the serving size, for instance, 1 cup. You'll also see the weight right next to it. So this weight was 227 grams. Underneath it, you're going to see the amount of calories per serving. So this has 280 calories. Underneath, you will see a list of nutrients. It's going to be the fat, cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, protein, and certain vitamins and minerals. And then over on the right-hand side, you're going to see the percent daily value. So 5% is going to be less or low, 20% will be more or high, but that's going to be something that we'll be diving in a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes. To begin off, we're going to talk about serving sizes. So serving sizes are standardized to make it easier to compare similar foods. They're provided in familiar units such as cups or pieces, followed by the metric amount, which is going to be the number of grams that you see. And the reason why there's that metric amount is because we've seen those snacks where at the bottom of the bag there's, those misshapen pieces, they're broken up, they're crumbly. If you're really watching your caloric intake or your carbohydrates or fats, you can take those pieces and you can weigh it out to see how much that serving size would weigh out to be. Now, the serving size, it's actually not a recommendation of how much you should eat or drink, but in different test studies that they've done, it's going to be the amount that people typically will eat or drink. Calories, they're provided, they're a measure of how much energy that you're going to be getting from the serving of food. So in the example that we had, there's 280 calories in 1 serving. But if you ate the entire package, then you would have to consume 4 servings, which would equal out to about 1,120 calories. So to achieve or maintain a healthy body weight, you need to balance the number of calories you eat and drink with the number of calories that your body uses. 2,000 calories a day is used as a general guide for nutrition advice, but your calorie needs may be higher or lower, and they may vary depending on your age, sex, height, weight, and physical activity level. Below, I have 2 different just websites that you can use to kind of calculate how many calories that you might be needing in a day. There's Choose My Plate and the TDEE calculator, that stands for your total daily energy expenditure. These slides will be sent to you guys later on, so you'll still have those links. I suggest, if you are to do these, to put in your needs for both, just to see, like what type of variation that each of these websites will give you guys. Now moving on to nutrients. So the nutrition label will list total fat along with saturated fat, trans fat, got your cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, which will be your dietary fiber, total sugars, added sugars, protein, and then you've got these couple of vitamins and minerals. Now the reasons why they have these specific vitamins and minerals on the nutrition label is because those are the ones that Americans will typically fall short of on their daily diet. Talking about nutrients that you need to get less of, that's going to be your saturated fat, your sodium, and your added sugars. So excess saturated fat and sodium in the diet can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure, and excess added sugar can increase your risk for diabetes and obesity. Now, why do we see a lot of packaged products that have high fat, sodium, and sugar? And the quick answer is just longevity and flavor. So fat and sugar and sodium, it all just keeps the product really shelf stable. And as most of us know, fat and sugar are the best tasting parts of food. And these companies, they want you to keep buying their products. So they're going to up those two nutrients just so that their product can taste a lot better. So what is the difference between total and added sugars? Total sugars on the nutrition facts label is going to include sugars that are naturally present in many nutritious foods and beverages, like lactose in milk, fructose in fruit, as well as any added sugars that may be present in the product. There is no daily reference value because there has been no established recommendation as to how much total sugar you should be eating in a day. Added sugars are going to include sugars that are added during the processing of foods, and this could be sucrose or dextrose. It could be foods that are packaged specifically as sweeteners, like table sugar, different sugars from syrups and honeys, and even sugars that are concentrated fruit or vegetable juices. Now, the American Heart Association, or the AHA, they recommend that men should consume 9 teaspoons or 36 grams or less of added sugar per day, and women should consume 6 teaspoons or 25 grams or less of added sugar per day. So nutrients that you want to be getting more of are going to include dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. So these are the ones that Americans generally do not get the recommended amount of. A diet high in dietary fiber can promote proper GI functions, it can lower blood glucose and cholesterol levels, and it can even reduce your caloric intake. So when we talk about fiber reducing your caloric intake, fiber is something that's gonna give you that satiating feeling and it's gonna make you feel really full. And we've all heard the term, like a calorie is a calorie, but that is definitely not true. For instance, if you were to have a 100-calorie snack with no fiber versus a 100-calorie snack with fiber, the snack that you have with the fiber afterwards, you're gonna feel a lot more full, satiated, and it's gonna help prevent you, keep going back to the snack cabinet because you're just gonna feel nice and full. Now, a diet high in vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium can reduce the risk of developing certain diseases, including osteoporosis, anemia, and even high blood pressure. Onto the percent daily value. It kind of explains itself. So the percent daily value is going to be the percentage of the daily value for each nutrient in a serving of food. The daily values will be, they have reference amounts of nutrients to consume or not to exceed each day. They're going to be expressed in grams, milligrams, or micrograms. The percent daily value shows how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a total daily diet, and it helps you determine if a serving of food is high or low in a nutrient. So the column does not add up to 100%, but instead you want to look at each individual row. So you can look at, if you have your food label, you can look at the total fat column. So for this one in particular, it has total fat 9 grams, and the percent daily value is 12%. So that means that by eating one serving of this food, you're going to be eating 12% of your total daily value for that nutrient. And now we can talk about the upper and lower limit. So the upper limit, it's going to be recommended that you eat less than the daily value that's been listed for that nutrient. For example, the daily value for saturated fat is 20 grams, but this is going to be 100% your daily value for this nutrient, or the upper limit, which means that you should be eating less than 20 grams per day. The lower limit is pretty much the opposite. So it's recommending that you eat at least what the daily value has listed for that nutrient. An example would be the daily value for dietary fiber is 28 grams, and that's 100% of the daily value for this nutrient, or the lower limit. So you should be eating at least 28 grams per day. So the upper limit is going to be applying to those foods that we want to be limiting. So the added sugars, the saturated fat, and the sodium. So you want to be getting less than 100% each day. And then the lower limit is going to be applying to the dietary fiber, your vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium, showing that you should be getting at least 100% each day. So this was something that we kind of saw in the beginning of the slide. So the general guide to percent daily value, when you see 5% daily value or less of a nutrient per serving, that's considered low. 20% or more of a nutrient per serving is going to be considered high. So for the lower percent daily value, that's what you want to be looking for: the saturated fat, the sodium, and the added sugars. And then higher in the percent daily value, you'll be wanting to look at dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. So there's different ways that we can utilize the percent daily value. One example is to compare foods. So you can use it to compare food products and choose products that are going to be higher in certain nutrients and lower in others. But you always want to be making sure that you're still keeping the serving size in mind. So for example, if you're comparing two food products, one has a serving size of half a cup, one has a serving size of a full cup. When you see the half a cup, naturally you're going to think that it's better because you see less calories, you see lower fat, but it may be the same amount or it may even be higher just because we kind of forget sometimes to check that serving size. Another way to utilize the percent daily value is for dietary trade-offs. So rather than giving up your favorite foods, you can use the percent daily value to make dietary trade-offs. So for example, if there's a food that you like that's going to be higher in saturated fat, you can balance it out with foods that are lower in saturated fat throughout the day. But you do want to be paying attention to how much you eat during the entire day so that the total amount of saturated fat, as well as other nutrients that you want to limit, will be staying below the 100% daily value. And then another way that you can utilize it is by understanding nutrient content claims. So we've all seen those claims as like light fat, low fat, reduced fat, low sugar, and these are what we call nutrient content claims. And to be able to have that on a product, you have to meet very certain like specifications. Like non-fat is less than 0.5%, some are less than 3%. And rather than trying to memorize all those different specifications, you can just use the percent daily value when you're comparing certain products to see which one is going to be higher in fat and lower in fat. Now, there are 3 nutrients that do not have a percent daily value, and we'll be talking about those. So the first one is going to be trans fats. The FDA believes that there is not enough evidence that is sufficient to establish a daily value. However, there is evidence that diets higher in trans fats are going to be associated with increased LDL cholesterol in the blood, which could lead to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. So LDL is going to be that what's termed the bad cholesterol that you want to keep low. Luckily, artificial trans fats, they were banned in the US in 2018, but they still occur naturally in certain meat and dairy products. So that's just something that you want to kind of keep an eye out for. Another nutrient without the percent daily value is going to be total sugar. So like we were saying before, there's been no established recommendation to how much total sugar you should be eating in a day. And total sugars are going to be including the naturally occurring sugar as well as any added sugar in the product. And as stated before, the American Heart Association recommends that men should be getting no more than 9 teaspoons a day and women should be getting no more than 6 teaspoons a day. And the last nutrient that we're going to be talking about that does not have a percent daily value is going to be protein. So the percent daily value is only required if a claim is made like high in protein or if the product is specifically intended for infants and children under the age of 4. Scientific evidence has shown that protein intake is not a public health concern for adults and children over the age of 4 in the US. There's a lot of experts that even say we kind of have a protein problem because for some reason we have such just a focus on protein and how we need to eat so much. And the average person can eat up to 2 to 3 times more protein than they need in a single day. And here is what the Academy suggested if you want to find what your own personal protein intake needs are. So you're going to take your weight. So for an example, I use 140 pounds. You're going to be converting it to kilograms. So just divide it by 2.2. So for this example, we got 63 kilograms and times it by 0.8. So somebody weighing 140 pounds needs 51 grams of protein just to maintain their levels. So now this is my favorite part. This is the ingredients. I love reading ingredients lists. I could honestly read them all day. So the ingredients, they're going to be at the bottom of the food label, and they're going to be listed in order by weight from the greatest amount to the smallest amount. So the ingredients that you see first, those will be the largest amounts that are in that product. So it's kind of hard to read in the picture, but for this one, the first ingredient is milk chocolate. And then in parentheses, you see a bunch of other ingredients, and those will be the ingredients within the first ingredient. And then at the bottom, what's typically at the bottom will be the allergy information. So for this one, it says in bold letters, allergy information contains peanuts, milk, and soy. But then at the end, you see that it may contain tree nuts. So that means that this product itself does not contain tree nuts, but it was produced in a facility that handles tree nuts. So they can't completely say that cross-contamination did or did not happen. So they have to put that little statement in at the end just to kind of cover their own butts. And then if you look next to the giant Mars label, you see a tiny little thing that says partially produced with genetic engineering. And that's something that you're going to be finding a lot more on highly processed foods, especially candy bars. So we're going to discuss bioengineered foods in the next slide. Okay, so bioengineered foods by definition is all food that contains detectable genetic material modified in vitro rDNA techniques and that could not have been modified through conventional breeding or found in nature. So the crops that are required to comply with the disclosure agreement are listed below, but the most common ones that we're going to be seeing will be canola, corn, salmon, and soybean. Those are the four that I most commonly seen being with bioengineered foods. I haven't really seen the other ones, but I'm sure that they're out there somewhere. And next, again, this is one of my favorite things to talk about is sugar, because it's everywhere. You can't escape it. Sugar is everywhere. So 68% of all packaged foods contain sugar. Now, why is there sugar in everything? It's because it gives the product flavor, texture, color, and it acts as a really great preservative. So there are some sugars that are going to be more noticeable, easy ones to spot, and those will be cane sugar, caramel, invert sugar, turbinado sugar. There are going to be some that are not as noticeable, and that could be D-ribose or dextrin, dextrose, malt. But a little tip is that anything that ends in ose, O-S-E, that's going to be a sugar. So if you see glucose, maltose, lactose, galactose, fructose, sucrose, those are all going to be sugars. Okay, and on to food additives. These are two really common food additives that you'll be seeing in highly processed foods. So first we have lecithin. The most common version of that is going to be soy lecithin. It's typically used as an emulsifier, a stabilizer, and a flavor protector. So when you think of an emulsifier, the way I think of is salad dressing. So oil and water, it doesn't go well together. And so when you add that emulsifier, it helps combine everything and just stabilizes it and keeps it all together rather than you having to keep shaking that salad dressing. And lecithin is going to be found in dietary supplements, ice cream, dairy products, even infant formulas, breads, margarine, and other convenience foods. Another common food additive is going to be glycerin. The most common that you'll see is vegetable glycerin, and that can be soy, coconut, or palm. It's also going to be used as an emulsifier, a thickening agent, a moisturizing agent, and it can even help sweeten the product. You will also be seeing hydrogenated oils. So what are they and what's the point of them? They are an oil that's made from edible oils that are extracted from certain plants. Now, partially hydrogenated oils were very popular in the past, but they are now banned because trans fat was created during the process. And like we talked about before, trans fat since 2018 has been banned from being produced. Now, hydrogenated oils, they do not have trans fats, and they are going to be used in baked and fried forms. And why use these oils? They're very low cost to produce. They themselves have a very long shelf life. They help alter texture, and they help alter the stability of the product. Now, when you're looking for ingredients, what do you really want to look for? So when possible, you want to avoid palm oil or palm kernel oil due to its high saturated fat content levels. And if possible, you want to use soybean oil, olive, peanut, or canola oil for their high mono and polyunsaturated fats. Another common food additive will be color additives. So that includes any dye, pigment, or substance which changes or alters the original color. There's a lot of different reasons for color additives. It can be to offset color loss due to exposure to light, air, temperature extremes, moisture, and storage conditions. It can correct the natural variations in the color, enhance colors that occur naturally, or even provide color to colorless and fun foods. So the most common places that we see color additives in our day-to-day lives would be sodas. Like Coca-Cola wouldn't be brown, margarine would not be yellow, mint ice cream would not be green, it would just be white and boring. And kids' cereal would look horrendous. Can you imagine Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops or like Fruity Pebbles? They would look terrible. But luckily, a lot of companies are more aware how consumers aren't really loving color additives, so they're going more of the natural route. So a lot of the times you will often see that colors are going to be from turmerics or from juiced carrots, or like a pink or red color might be from juiced beets. So that's a really cool way that companies are kind of listening to their consumers and going away from that color additive route. So this is an example that I just want to go over with the ingredients. Now the food label itself, it is kind of old, and you can tell because there is no added sugar box underneath the sugars. And they also have polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats listed, which typically you won't be seeing that on a food label as well. But I really like the ingredients just to kind of show how we've got a lot of crazy ingredients nowadays. So just going down the list, first we've got roasted peanuts, then we have almonds. The third one is going to be soy protein isolate. And if you look at the packaging, it's promoting it as being a high protein bar. So that's where the soy protein isolate comes into. We've got chicory root extract, sugar. So there's our first form of sugar. And the next one, we've got vegetable oils, which are going to be a combination of palm kernel, palm, and canola. So again, the palm kernel and palm can contribute to saturated fat. So if we look at the food label, one bar has 3.5 grams of saturated fat, so that could be contributing to some of that. Next, we've got our roasted sunflower seeds, which will have sunflower seeds and sunflower oil. So far we already have 4 different types of oils in there. Next, we have toasted coconut. So that can also be contributing to some of the saturated fat and the sugars in there as well. Next, we have a whey protein concentrate, which can be adding to those protein levels. Tapioca syrup, so that's our next sugar. High maltose corn syrup, that's a third sugar. Fructose, there's that ose, so that's going to be our 4th sugar. We have cocoa. Vegetable glycerin, there's a stabilizer that we talked about already. Rice starch, rice maltodextrin, there's another one. Salt, soy lecithin, that was another stabilizer we talked about. Dextrose, there's the O, so that's a 6th sugar. Baking soda, and natural flavor. So in one of these protein bars, we've got 6 sugars, 4 different types of oils. It's something that you want to keep in mind when you're looking at, like what you're eating. And one bar has 190 calories, where 110 of those came from fat. So it's a very high fat protein bar. So it's got 12 grams of fat, which is about 20% of your percent daily value. So that means that within one bar, you've already eaten 1/5 of your total fat intake for the day. So it is something that you want to kind of just keep in mind when you're reading food labels.
Ready?
Yes, sorry. Okay, so this is the last one that we're going to be going over today. I thought this would be just kind of a good comparison of 2 food labels. These were actually ones that I just found in my pantry. So the food label on the left, that is going to be Uncle Ben's long grain and wild rice, original recipe with 23 herbs and seasonings. And then the box on the right is a tabbouleh grain salad mix. So starting with the box on the left, we're going to start with the ingredients because that's always where my eyes go first. So when I saw the long list, I was like, it makes sense. There's 23 herbs and spices. They've got to list all of them, but they didn't. There's only 8 spices listed. And I get it because they can't give away all their secrets, but I was surprised that out of all those ingredients, only 8 of them were spices. Some of the other ingredients that they have in there are going to be vitamins and minerals that they added. So they've got calcium carbonate, iron phosphate, thiamine mononitrate, folic acid, and some other fun things that they have are going to be hydrolyzed corn, soy, wheat, gluten, protein. They have sugar, hydrolyzed corn, yeast, wheat, gluten, soy, protein, hydrolyzed yeast protein, and yeast extract. So those are some fun ones that they've got in there that are a mouthful. And now looking on the right, when you look at the ingredients, they're going to be a lot more simpler. They're straight to the point. You've got bulgur wheat, salt, parsley, onions. They have molasses as a little bit of a sweetener, garlic, spearmint, honey, and black pepper. So now if we take a look at the calories, so the box on the left, per serving is 200 calories. Per carton is going to be 600 calories. Now on the right, as packaged, is going to be 80 calories. And then they have as prepared, which is 120 calories. So I kind of accidentally cut it off a little bit, but for the box on the right, there was a little portion that says for the as prepared, you can add a tablespoon of olive oil, lemon juice, and fresh parsley, and that will kind of just help add a little bit of flavor, but you don't have to. So if you were to prepare it without that, it would be 80 calories. So now when you're looking at these here, you're like, okay, one's 200 calories, one is 80 calories. That's a huge caloric difference, but you need to look at the serving size too. So the box on the left, one serving size is going to be 2 ounces, whereas the box on the right, one serving size is only going to be 1 ounce. So you just need to double everything. So the calories for the right, instead of being 80, it's going to be 160. And also what you need to look at is the box on the left. There's 3 servings per container with 2 ounces. So in total, you're going to be getting 6 ounces, where on the right, you're only going to be getting 5 ounces. So kind of taking it all together, the box on the left, in total, it has 600 calories for the entire thing. There's a lot of ingredients. 1 2-ounce serving has 200 calories, 28% of your daily value for sodium, 1 gram of fiber. There's a lot of different nutrients that are added. And it does contain bioengineered products. So at the very bottom of the food label on the left, you can see it contains bioengineered food ingredients. Not to say that's a bad thing, but it is something that you do want to keep in mind and just kind of notice when you are reading food labels. And now going to the box on the right, looking at everything as a whole, there is 400 calories in the total box on the right. But again, it's only 5 ounces as opposed to 6. So if we were going to do the math and bring it up to 6 ounces, it would be a total of 480 calories. So 480 calories compared to 600 calories. It's not a huge difference, but calories they build up in the end. So you just kind of want to be conscious with everything that you're eating. So 1 2-ounce serving, remember we had to double it. It's going to be 160 calories. It'll have 22% of your sodium. It'll have 10 grams of fiber, and there's going to be no added nutrients. So I am a huge fiber person. Fiber, it just helps your gut. And again, like we talked, how it can decrease your caloric intake just by making you feel fuller for longer. So I'm always looking at fiber. So the one on the left had 1 gram of fiber. The one on the right had 10 whole grams of fiber. And for fiber, you want to get approximately 28 grams per day. So that is already nearly over 1/3 of your percent daily value just in 2 ounces of the tabbouleh rice mix. And whole grains, they all do have fiber in them, but because the Uncle Ben's box on the left, because it was so highly processed, all of the fiber got taken out. And you could make the argument, like when you're thinking about which one should I pick, you could make the argument that the box on the left, there's all those vitamins, there's all those minerals, it's great. But we need to remember that the best place to get your vitamins and minerals are going to be from, those whole foods, the fruits and vegetables, and you shouldn't have to rely on a fortified rice, to get those vitamins and minerals. So although it's a great thing, that isn't something that you should be basing your whole choice on. So just kind of like as an ending remark, just when you're reading food labels, don't take one thing into account. Don't just take the calories, don't just take the grams of fat. Just kind of look at it as a whole to make your best decision. And that's all that I have for food labels. But we can do questions. Yeah, I have a lot of works cited too that you guys can look at.
That was great information. I know it's a lot and hopefully some new things. Anybody learn anything new that they want to share?
I like that. Instead of considering it an ingredient label, consider it a warning label. That's really cute.